Welcome to my channel, Hotspot with Loveth, the ultimate spot for all things entertainment, ranging from celebrity gists, reviews, interesting stories, and African folktales. Subscribe now. James and Sarah had been married for 5 years. They were the perfect couple in the eyes of many, deeply in love and always seen together. Their friends often commented on the way they seemed to complete each other's sentences and finish each other's thoughts. They shared a deep bond, a connection that was evident to anyone who saw them. Their intimacy was a foundation of their relationship, built on trust, understanding, and mutual respect. They communicated openly and honestly, believing that this was the secret to their success. Whether they were at home enjoying a quiet evening or out with friends, their chemistry was undeniable. James admired Sarah's wit and kindness, while Sarah loved James' intelligence and sense of humor. They found joy in the little things, like cooking dinner together, taking long walks, or simply talking late into the night. Their marriage was a beautiful dance of love and partnership, one that they both cherished deeply. The arrival of their first child, Emily, brought immense joy to James and Sarah. From the moment they held her in their arms, they were smitten. Emily's tiny hands and innocent eyes filled their hearts with a love they had never known before. They cherished every moment with their newborn, marveling at each milestone, from her first smile to her first coo. James was a proud father, eager to capture every precious moment on camera, while Sarah was the doting mother, nurturing and caring for Emily with endless patience. However, the demands of caring for a baby soon began to take a toll on both of them. Particularly Sarah. She devoted herself to Emily, often feeling exhausted and overwhelmed by the responsibilities of motherhood. Sleepless nights, constant feedings, and the relentless cycle of diaper changes left her drained. Despite James' efforts to help, Sarah bore the brunt of the caregiving, feeling the physical and emotional strain. James noticed the changes in her. He admired her dedication but worried about the toll it was taking on her. Their once vibrant conversations now centered around feeding schedules and pediatrician appointments. The joy of parenthood was undeniable, but it also brought challenges they had not anticipated. As Sarah navigated this new chapter, she found herself longing for a moment of reprieve, a chance to reconnect with James and remember the woman she was before Emily. As time passed, subtle changes began to emerge. James noticed that Sarah seemed less interested in physical intimacy. The late-night feedings, endless diaper changes, and constant vigilance required to care for Emily left her utterly exhausted by the end of the day. Their once passionate nights became less frequent, replaced by Sarah's need for sleep and recovery. James, on the other hand, found himself yearning for the closeness they once had. He missed the spontaneous kisses, the lingering touches, and the comfort of their intimate moments. James tried to initiate conversations about their dwindling sex life, helping to address the gap that was forming between them. "I miss us," he said one evening, gently holding Sarah's hand. But Sarah, weary and overwhelmed, brushed off his concerns, assuring him that it was just a phase. "It's just because I'm tired all the time." "Look, honey, once Emily starts sleeping through the night, things will get better, I believe," she said with a reassuring smile, though she herself was unsure if that would be the case. Despite her reassurances, James couldn't shake the feeling of rejection. He understood the demands of parenthood, but also felt an increasing sense of isolation. He missed the emotional and physical connection they once shared, and worried that this phase might last longer than either of them anticipated. Sarah, on the other hand, felt guilty for not being able to meet James' needs, but was too overwhelmed to address it. The unspoken tension began to create a rift, as both struggled to navigate their new roles as parents without losing sight of each other. Their love was still strong, but the challenges of parenthood were testing their bond in ways they hadn't expected. Sarah's disinterest in physical intimacy was deeply rooted in her postpartum experience. Childbirth had brought significant changes to her body and mind, changes she hadn't fully anticipated. Her once familiar body felt like a stranger's, marked by stretch marks, weight gain, and lingering soreness. She felt less confident about her appearance, often avoiding mirrors and dismissing James' compliments. This self-consciousness weighed heavily on her, making it difficult to feel attractive or desirable. The hormone shift, coupled with the demands of new motherhood, left her feeling drained and overwhelmed. She was constantly fatigued from the endless cycle of feeding, changing and soothing Emily. Nights bled into days with little reprieve, leaving Sarah with barely enough energy to function, let alone engage in physical intimacy. Her mind was consumed with worries about Emily's well-being, often leaving her too anxious to relax and connect with James. These physical and emotional changes created a barrier between Sarah and James, one she struggled to articulate. She felt guilty for not meeting James' needs and worried that he might think she no longer loved him. However, her own needs for rest and recovery were paramount in her mind. She craved understanding and patience but found it hard to express this to James. James, sensing her distance, tried to be supportive but felt increasingly shut out. He missed the closeness they once shared and was unsure how to bridge the growing gap. Sarah's postpartum experience was a lonely journey, one that was affecting her marriage. She longed to reconnect with James, but felt trapped by the demands and changes brought on by childbirth. James' frustration grew as weeks turned into months. He felt increasingly rejected and began to wonder if Sarah was no longer attracted to him. The intimacy they once shared seemed like a distant memory, and the unfulfilled desire started to create a rift between them. James missed the late-night conversations, the gentle touches, and the sense of closeness that had always been a cornerstone of their relationship. Sarah, on the other hand, felt pressured by James' constant need for physical affection. She loved him deeply but couldn't understand why her desire for intimacy had waned. Every time James approached her, she felt a pang of guilt mixed with exhaustion. Her mind was constantly occupied with Emily's needs, leaving little room for anything else. The more James pushed, the more Sarah retreated, feeling overwhelmed by his expectations and her inability to meet them. She wished she could explain her feelings better, but struggled to find the right words, fearing that James wouldn't understand. The growing tension between them was palpable, casting a shadow over their once happy home. James sought advice from his close friend Mark. Over drinks, James confided in him about the growing distance between him and Sarah. Mark listened carefully and suggested that James try to reconnect with Sarah on an emotional level, emphasizing that rekindling their emotional bond might naturally lead to a renewed physical intimacy. Mark advised John to focus on quality time, relieving her of the stress of babysitting most times, meaningful conversations, and small gestures of affection to remind Sarah of their deep connection. James took Mark's advice to heart and planned a romantic weekend getaway for Sarah and himself. He hoped that by spending quality time together, they could reconnect emotionally. The weekend was filled with laughter, deep conversations, and moments of tenderness. James felt hopeful as he saw glimpses of the passionate woman he married. Sarah appreciated James' efforts and felt a renewed sense of closeness with him. Sarah took the opportunity to have an honest conversation with John. She explained her feelings and the reasons behind her decreased libido. James listened attentively, feeling a mix of relief and concern. They agreed to work together to find a balance that would meet both their needs. James promised to be more patient and supportive, while Sarah committed to doing what she can to reignite their intimacy. James and Sarah began exploring alternatives to traditional physical intimacy until Sarah becomes sexually fit again. They would constantly cuddle up with kisses and taking it one step at a time. On one of Sarah's visits to her sister, Vanessa's house, she found herself opening up about the issues she and James had been battling since the birth of their baby girl. As they sat in the cozy kitchen sipping a glass of juice, Sarah hesitated before finally voicing her concerns. Vanessa, I just don't know what to do. James and I have been struggling since Emily was born. I love him deeply, but my libido just hasn't returned. I feel like I'm failing him and our marriage. Vanessa listened empathetically, nodding as she understood the challenges of postpartum life. Sarah, I get it, it's not easy, and it takes time to adjust. But there is something that might help you, she said, reaching into a cupboard, pulling out a bottle labeled Jixmore Herbal Drink. This drink helped me when I was in a similar situation. It helped increase my libido and made me feel more like myself again. It's completely safe to drink since you are no longer breastfeeding. Intrigued but cautious, Sarah asked, "Are you sure it's safe?" Vanessa nodded reassuringly. "Absolutely. I did my research before I started taking it, and it's also good for general health, and it would also help you slim down. Just try it first thing in the morning and last thing at night. Give it a week or two and see how you feel." Sarah took the bottle with her, hopeful yet skeptical. She began taking the Jixmore herbal drink as Vanessa suggested each morning and night. The first few days, she didn't notice much change. However, by the end of the week, Sarah felt a surprising shift. An unfamiliar but welcome sense of desire began to stir within her. One evening, as she put Emily to bed, she felt a strong urge to be close to James. James was pleasantly surprised when Sarah started making advances towards him. The spark in her eyes was something he hadn't seen in a long time. He obliged, and they shared a passionate night that reminded them of the early days of their marriage. The connection they felt was electric, both physically and emotionally, and it brought a sense of relief and joy to them both. Curious about the sudden change, James asked, "Sarah, what brought this on? Not that I'm complaining, but this feels like such a sudden shift." Smiling, Sarah explained, "It's a herbal drink Vanessa gave me. She said it helped her when she was going through a similar phase after having a baby. And it seems to be working for me too." James' eyes lit up with excitement. "That's amazing. I'm so glad something is helping." "Never let that drink out of your sight," he joked, and they both laughed, feeling a renewed sense of closeness. The changes in Sarah continued, and their home was restored to its complete state again. They found a balance that worked for both of them, feeling satisfied physically and emotionally, as well as all round. John and Sarah realized that their journey had been challenging, but it had also brought them closer together, reinforcing their love and commitment. With their intimacy reignited, they felt ready to face any future challenges, knowing that they could overcome them together.